I've done the spiel about being dedicated to helping you, my rebels, become the person you want to be. That's been somewhat empty talk because I feel somewhat uncomfortable giving advice on self-actualization when I haven't completed the process myself first. But it's important, and I want more of you to join me in this process. Find yourself some paper because we're about to get geeky in here and nerd all over it. So today we're talking about strength. It's one of the big ones when we're talking about traditional heroes. But what is strength? Not everyone's definition is the same. Some people use the word strength to define someone's mental toughness. In fact, I can't think of a hero that hasn't been challenged in one way or another on their ability in this regard. And we will cover this in a different episode. But that's not the type of strength we're talking about today. Today we're talking about muscle and physical power. Just the mention of the word hero kind of conjures up the mental image of someone who could probably lift some fairly heavy things. At least it does for me. This is a fairly common attribute in role-playing games. And for fighter-style characters, like barbarians, paladins, gladiators, and soldiers, it tends to be the most important attribute. It wouldn't make much sense for someone who gets into physical battles for a living to not be able to pick up their weapon, now does it? If you're like me, you probably already have a bit of strength. Your spouse asks you to open jars and you're required to lift the heavier bags of groceries. Or say you happen to help a friend move. It comes time to lift the bed, the couch, the chest of drawers, or the box filled to the brim with books. And everyone just kind of turns their head and looks at you rather expectantly. It's a good feeling to know you can get those things done. If in those scenarios you're the spouse or the expectant onlooker, don't worry, it probably just means you're of normal strength and that's okay. And if you know that you're not as strong as the average Joe or Joan, it's okay to be that too. No one here is saying that you're not good enough just the way that you are. But this project is all about self-improvement and self-development. And if you're on the weak side, or even on the strong side, this might be an area you want to work on. If not, chances are you specialize in something else. Something that I myself or others need to work on. Don't worry, we'll get to those too, but today we're going to talk about strength. Pretty much every RPG has a system where they rank the attributes, and that usually means assigning them a number. It doesn't really matter what system you're familiar with, they all pretty much have a spectrum. On one side, you have those that can barely move, because the weight of their own limbs is too much for them. On the other side, you have supernatural strength, where lifting cars and trucks is not really a big issue. Somewhere near the middle, usually a little further from the supernatural side, you have your normal, everyday, average person. I've done a bunch of research, and it seems like what's considered average strength varies greatly, depending on who you talk to. But for our purposes, we sort of need to define it. So here we go. Based on the research I've done, it seems like your average person should be able to lift 8 to 10% of their body weight over their head with one arm, no problem. So that's going to be our average marker, which we're going to define as 0. The record I've been able to find for this feat belonged to a man named Paul Anderson, an Olympic weightlifter who weighed in at 360 pounds. And he managed a 380-pound one-arm side press. That's 105% of his body weight. We're going to put that as the 10 on our scale. If you can do more than that, I would love to see it. If you can barely lift your own arm, we have to put you at the -10. It's the other end of the spectrum. This seems like a good scale to me. Anything more than 10 and you're not really human. Anything less than -10 and you can't really move. So how do you find out where you land on this scale? The most logical extension would be to take 105% of your body weight minus 10% of your body weight, divide that by 10, and that should equal the individual numbers that are on our scale. So for every 9.5% past that initial 10, you get another point. That takes care of the positive scale. On the negative scale, it's going to be more subjective. You're going to have to figure out how difficult it is for you to do certain things. But if you can raise your arm at all, you're not -11, so at least you have that going for you. And probably only being able to raise your arm with no difficulty would be a -5. On this scale, I fall somewhere around 1.5. Figure out where you end up on the scale and record it. Let me know in the comments too. And since this is about improvement, in the next episode of Creating Character, I'll go over some things that we can do to build that number up. If you found this video enjoyable or amusing, please share it and help it find a bigger audience. Don't forget to subscribe, click like, and otherwise follow me on social media so you don't miss out on what comes next. I'll be back Tuesday with a new video. Stick with me, Rebels. We can do this. A little uncomfortable giving advice on self. As usual, we're going to